Welcome, everybody, to on Bourbon Street for August 28th. My name is Eric. I think you've seen me before on previous episodes, but this week is going to be a little bit different with both Mark and Don away. We're going to attack this week's topics from a variety of different perspectives by inviting three additional guests to our broadcast to give a different perspective on things going on in the world this week. It's very exciting, very different, and we're looking to let's get right into it with our first guest. Specialist sponsorship strategy from T1. Maz, welcome.
Hey, Eric, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. I think a lot of things have happened this week. I think we'll jump right into the first topic. A lot of people have been talking about, obviously, the NBA boycott.
Yeah.
So once again, the NBA is the leader in taking the stand, this time straight from the players themselves, not even just the organizations. It's something they had to do. I mean, after 3 months, very little has changed. And if it's taken another senseless incident to bring it to people's attention, the T-shirts, the brand sentiments, the kneeling just wasn't enough. What's your perspective on this?
I think what's really interesting about this boycott this time around is that the players are starting to understand that it's not just putting pressure on the league or anything to go and put a Black Lives Matter sign up or anything of that nature. I think what it is now is that they're understanding that they've got to put pressure on the owners, and the owners need to step up and they need to come out and say, listen, we're behind you guys, and we're going to do something by lobbying our local governments to deal with the issues of the police. I think that's what's one of the biggest things that is coming out from this boycott specifically. I think what also is interesting as well is that players aren't all on the same page. They're all on different pages, which makes this really interesting in the sense that there's real conversation being had. Something that I think people sort of moved away from initially when Kyrie Irving was the one saying, hey, we shouldn't go back. And people are like, oh, like just stop talking. But now it's like, okay, let's actually have a conversation. Let's get uncomfortable. And I think that's what's key. But what does suck is that it takes a boycott. It takes someone passing away and someone getting shot for something like this to happen. I think that's where everyone needs to start looking into and start trying to address. It's what can we do as a society to not let this happen anymore? And it's awareness, and there's so many other things. But the players are in the right, in my opinion, here to boycott, and it's putting pressure on those owners to lobby and really get the word out there.
For sure. And it's quite a unique situation, and that the fact that they're in the bubble altogether, that's something that is very unique to this situation that is allowed for more conversations to happen. And like you said, not everybody is necessarily on the same page. I think a lot of people are taking leads from different people. I know over the last 48 hours, just the amount of different news flying everywhere, people's opinions, people not sure what's going on. I think that has elevated the conversation to the front. And like you said, the ability for every NBA player to sit in a room, or at least that's left in the playoffs, and discuss it is unprecedented.
Yeah.
When you compare that to other leagues and their response to this, a bit more all over the place. I know there's been some criticisms for other leagues sort of being hesitant. It's really not that complicated to follow the lead of the NBA. I don't know why they're making it so hard on themselves, specifically the NHL. And as much as the MLB's got a little bit of praise from people, they've gone through a bit of a sketchy space as well. They're not as aligned as people think they are.
Yeah.
The NHL, first of all, obviously the hub's here in Toronto, so it's front news for us. Their lack of understanding that first night of what was going on. What's your perspective on that?
I think what's really sad about what the NHL is doing is that I think NHL's hashtag is hockey's for everyone. But every way along the road, they've shown that hockey isn't for everyone, and they don't have an understanding of a decent amount of their players. Minority of their players, but they don't have an understanding of, hey, it's not just a boycott. It's more of, when you boycott, you really get this conversation going. People are talking about it. People are like, hey, like, okay, so what's actually going on? Why are they boycotting? And it's in the media. The media is going crazy. It's media rights that really matter, right, at the end of the day for these guys. So when they don't have players, they don't have commercials, they don't have all these other things that are going on. And I think the NHL really needs to start stepping up, because it doesn't look good for them. They should be a leader because they're a great organization. But it seems like the only time they become leaders is when it's, how can we get back to play? They were the first ones to figure it out. But when it comes to this, it's like, yeah, just play. It should be fine.
It seems like they're saying it's not our problem.
Exactly.
It's their problem almost more than anyone else.
Yeah.
The way that they don't really it appears they don't make it as welcoming as others on the teams. I know many stories from junior hockey and such of dressing rooms and things like that. Won't get into that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's definitely, they should be at the forefront of the discussion, and they've taken a step back to sort of like, it's not really our thing sort of deal.
Yeah.
I know from myself, everyone knows I'm a big Blue Jays fan. And they got a little bit of praise for not playing yesterday, but let's get the record straight. The team voted not to boycott.
Yes.
And that really disappoints me. I don't think there's been a team that I'm most morally disconnected, Blue Jays team, like a set of players, than this one.
Yeah.
I think they have a little bit explained to do. They only didn't play because the Red Sox didn't want to play. That was disturbing to me. And that's something I'll have to look into myself in the future. But yeah, the inconsistencies of other leagues, I mean, I've been surprised about it. Moving on, we know that you are a big esports guy. You're the go-to esports guy. I know I sit in the same pod as you in a past life back at the office. Tell me about what's going on with esports. It was pegged to be go huge during the lockdown, and you want to just talk about the streaming fan bases.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in esports right now. Just this weekend, there will be a playoff championship for CDL, Call of Duty League, and then coming up very soon, it's World Championships. It's a $4.3 million purse to be won. But what's going on right now that's really interesting in the esports space, or esports and gaming space specifically, the power that streamers hold, the power that streamers are sort of wielding now when it comes to content, when it comes to fan base, and being able to really personalize the space and create a community around it. Just in the past 2 weeks, we had two of the biggest streamers come back, Shroud and Dr. Disrespect. Dr. Disrespect was previously banned from Twitch, made his move over to YouTube, and had 500,000 viewers watching his stream. That was up for about 7 hours. And then you also had Shroud, same thing. And Shroud came in, and same situation. He was at Mixer, left Mixer, got bought out, came back to Twitch, and he had over 500,000 people watching. So the community base for specifically these streamers are so huge that these streamers are essentially now controlling their destiny, but also controlling what the space looks like. This whole week, you'll have, for example, you have small little community events and tournaments. Warzone, which is a really popular game right now. You have Nick Merckx has something called the MFAM Gauntlet, one of the big streamers. Every day he has 70,000 viewers on one of them, and then you have Big Star with another tournament. So it just shows you the power that streamers have versus anyone else. It's that ability to really personalize your community to what they want without having someone over you telling you what you need to do. And I think that really shows in this space, is that I can control what I'm going to talk to my fans about, and I can control how I want to interact with my fans. If I want to hold a tournament, I can hold a tournament. If I just want to sit down and chat with them, I can just sit down and chat with them. And what's really neat about this is, from the sponsorship perspective, sponsors are noticing this, and they're moving away from just looking at esports from a professional lens, but they're looking at it from a professional lens, and they're looking at, okay, how can we interact with these influencers, essentially, quote unquote, or streamers. Toronto Ultra did a great job. They had a tournament about 2 weeks ago, a 100K tournament for Warzone, where they interacted with these streamers. I think it gave them a lot of great recognition, and I think we need more of that in the space, where the teams notice what's happening with the streamers and are willing to partner with them and work with them to grow the space, but then to also grow their brand as well.
You talk about personalities within the space. I'm not that averse to esports, but I knew about the whole Dr. Disrespect thing with Twitch. Just to get an understanding that I'm not within this world, and I still knew about it, and I knew it through his personality and his ability to get it out there, and how he was just a little all over the place. And that just shows to you that he created that himself, and that made him who he is. So that's very interesting. They give that perspective on something that is definitely growing all the time. I don't know if we want to maybe bring in our second guest to the broadcast. Please welcome Alex, strategist at Humanity. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to stay on somewhat of the same line of topics. So we're going to talk about the rise of UGC within UGC Stars. So with the decrease of big studio production during the lockdown, this has pushed these stars from user-generated content to the forefront. So tell us about these stars. Tell us some of them and what they use to raise their fame.
So it's crazy because these typical big entertainment and production companies are on pause because of social distancing restrictions, and it's giving these YouTube stars and TikTok stars really a platform to shine because they can create relatable and engaging content in an hour, a week, a day, and you're seeing so much more of it, and they're pumping out so much more content, which has driven them to be so much more successful. They've grown millions and millions of followers over the last couple of months. This quarantine and social distancing has really allowed them to thrive. So speaking about TikTok in general, the most followed person on TikTok is Charlie D'Amelio, who's like a 17-year-old who has 83 million followers on TikTok. And just putting that in perspective, like Ariana Grande has like 199 million. So she's on her way up to that level of fame. So it's crazy to see these kind of 17-year-old girls. And I think what's making them successful is like the relatability of it. These are just kind of regular people, but we'll see how that transitions and as they become more and more famous.
Mm-hmm. Is this something that you think can cross over between the platforms? Obviously, these individuals that you talked about are mostly TikTok, and TikTok is definitely number one in our minds, especially for the younger generation. If, whether it happens or not, TikTok gets banned. I know I've talked about that on previous weeks. Is it easy for them to transition over to YouTube the way that Maz was talking earlier with esports?
I mean, there's definitely a lot more creativity that's available on YouTube in terms of the length of the videos, as well as the editing features and all that. I think there's obviously a learning curve, and the stars that are stars on YouTube are not necessarily stars on TikTok and vice versa. So it's definitely a matter of expanding their like personal content and seeing how they can break into a new stream. I know Instagram has launched Instagram Reels, which is basically a knockoff of TikTok, where we're offering the same kind of platform, however, on Instagram. So you can see they're already trying to compete with that, and they've. So we shall see. Did I freeze?
A little bit for a second. It adds to the drama.
Okay.
Great. So I know for myself during the lockdown, you have that routine of big movies coming out and on television, certain things coming up. I know a lot of us have shifted already to watching exclusively YouTube. Not everyone has. I don't have cable. I don't know if you guys do. But specifically for the lockdown, their ability to communicate with consumers and people day to day as they experience the same thing that everyone else has experienced. Did you find that was something that people could relate to better than maybe the larger productions being out of date and showing reruns?
Yeah, I mean, even freezing. Even going to the movies, things like that is not possible anymore, those typical forms of entertainment. So people are relying on the more relatable things that you're seeing from regular celebrities, or maybe not the A-list.
Oh, in and out again. Maz, are you on TikTok?
I am on TikTok, and to what Alex was saying, that I think TikTok's ability to create content is king. The fact that I can just go in there, create content right away is what's great, and I think that's what's going to keep it thriving. And let's see if Walmart and Microsoft can pull off this purchase, because it's going to be really crucial to see what happens with TikTok moving forward. It could change the way we actually do content, to be honest with you. I know Instagram and everything did as well, and YouTube did, but TikTok's ability to connect with this younger audience is fast. It's amazing. It's amazing.
For sure. And it's always about what is next. I mean, you talked about how YouTube had a rise. Obviously, Instagram keeps evolving, and then TikTok came out of nowhere over the past couple of years. I guess, is there anything on the horizon that we haven't seen yet? I know that's a very vague question, and if you knew, then you'd probably invent it and sell it. But like, what type of interaction of user-generated content do you think is next? Like, is there anything that's sort of out there? So I put you on the spot with that question, but it just popped in my head talking about the evolution of it.
I think it's only getting bigger. I think it's allowing more regular people to reach that level of fame and reach that level of influence. And I think that's what's really powerful about TikTok and YouTube, is that anybody can be anybody they want to be on those platforms. So I think those are only getting bigger. Obviously, with things going on with TikTok. It's hard to say where it's going to go, if it's going to transition to Instagram, if there's going to be a new app. But I see the idea of it and the strategy of it, of people, regular people becoming or having a lot of influence. I don't think that's going anywhere.
Cool. Let's switch it up a bit. Speaking of other parts of our life that have been affected by COVID-19 in the last couple of weeks, gyms and fitness. So this is something that people have had to, do from home since COVID started. They've had to sort of mix it up, different new realities of online sharing when it comes to exercising. But now that gyms are open in a way, there's obviously lineups outside. Please tell us your experience. I know, Alex, you're talking about canceling your membership.
Yeah, I mean, doing a bit of research, apparently only 30% of gym goers have already gone back to the gym. So you see these big lines, but you wonder if those are just kind of the diehards. I mean, there's obviously been a transition from being in quarantine where people were sitting on the couch for the past 5 months. It's a big leap to go back to the gym, and it's a safety concern as well. You're sweating, you're breathing heavily. Do you wear a mask? Social distancing is hard. It's a gross place. So obviously going to the gym, like I've gone back to certain like fitness studios that have group fitness classes where you can kind of reserve a bike or reserve a treadmill, and you kind of have more certainty about what's going to happen. But yeah, I canceled my gym membership just because it's expensive, and with everything going on with COVID, I don't know if I have I've changed and I've adapted, and I'm doing workouts at home instead of going to the gym. So I don't see a point in kind of paying to go somewhere when I can do it just as fine as at home.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I haven't been at the gym yet either. And I look at those lines outside and I wonder, I mean, some people are really committed to it.
Yeah.
For sure. Maz, what's your experience? Are you a gym goer constantly? Do you have an opinion on like, it's worth standing in that line?
I do have an opinion on it, and I am a gym goer. I put my Good Life membership on hold, so that I can instead, that's not a plug, but I put it on hold, and I found a small little gym that I don't have to wait in line for, and I don't have time limits for, so it's great. For me, what the gym is a big thing in my life because of the mental health aspect. It gives me the time to just stress, relax, and just get in my own little bubble, I guess you could say. So I do see the lines, and I do see the impact that those lines have on people's ability to really just get away. Because it's like when you get into the gym now for these people, it's not just about getting away and just, relaxing for like, let's say 2 hours. It's like, hey, get your workout done in an hour and you got to get out of here. So their mindset now is like, okay, now I'm stressing more because now I got to figure out what workouts I need to do. So a lot of my friends, some of my friends actually have sort of just stopped. And they're like, I'm just going to keep working out from home. Save my money, and then once this whole thing figures itself out, I'll go back. So it honestly comes down to the person, but I would say that it's definitely impacted a lot of individuals that are into fitness as a whole. We'll see what happens moving forward, but right now it doesn't look too good based off the fact that I was talking to some people that work at Good Life head office, and they were saying that it doesn't seem like we'll be able to open this up to a lot of people very soon. But you never know, right? I think we've seen great results come out, so hopefully it does open up, but it's definitely taken an impact on people's mental health and just health in general.
The whole industry is going to have to change, and you can see it already. It's the first steps. I'm going to thank you, Maz, for joining us today. We're actually going to move on. Thank you. And to the next topic. And with that next topic, we're going to welcome Regine onto the show. Regine, Senior Director of Sponsorship Strategy at T1. Welcome. Love the shirt. Sort of unmute yourself.
Yeah, that would help.
There you go. Try and read your lips, but that'll make this much harder situation. How are you today?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Doing great. So the first topic we're bringing up with you on the show is the New York Fashion Week and their partnership with Lowe's, something we haven't seen before, but sort of it's a reflection of the times with COVID-19, everyone's staying at home. Tell me about it.
Absolutely. I mean, first off, I wouldn't be the first one to really jump up to talk about Fashion Week because this is definitely not my forte. But, New York Fashion Week, it's been given the green light to go ahead with obviously major stipulations and rules and regulations in place. But it's opened up an interesting partnership with Lowe's. Who would ever thunk that a home improvement store and, something as large as, Fashion Week coming together. And I think that's kind of what has been the, if I could say, beauty of COVID, is, these new opportunities coming up, people having to, I'm going to say the word pivot, and think creatively and open up new categories to new industries. There are limited properties out there. And so it's making the industry have to think on its feet.
For sure. It's definitely not something you naturally would think, especially with how glitzy and glam the Fashion Week normally is. It's quite interesting because, as they say, I know Jason Wu is one of the designers involved in this project with Lowe's, and he talked about how a home is so important in our lives now, even for them. It's a place where he worked on bringing his spring collection together, so it makes sense that they're a part of it. I know specifically for it, they aren't directly going to be designing the clothes, but they're going to be designing the setup around the runways and things like that. And I think that's definitely something people can relate to. And I know I might be watching otherwise, and I wouldn't be otherwise. For sure.
Well, it gives now people, they were so focused if they wanted a statement item or to show their individuality, they may have done that in their clothes previously. However, now you get like a little peek into everybody's home. And so this is something that people are wanting to invest in, especially since they're spending so much time there. So I think it's a great idea. And I wonder, like, even at how much further it can go beyond Lowe's. Is it more home improvement, exercise equipment, like groceries? Like, it could go beyond just home improvement.
Absolutely. And home improvement has also increased during COVID, right? So, we have two sides here, people who can't afford to pay their bills, and then there's people who are doing home renovations, right? So there's a great disparity, unfortunately. But to your point, these designers have had to, they depend on, certain inspiration and muses to come up with their artwork. And so being at home, they've had to kind of flip that switch.
For sure. Moving on, we're going to talk about back to school. It's coming up very quickly. It's on the front pages, but beyond being on the front pages, it's right in our lives right here. I know, Regina, obviously you're a mother. Tell us about your experience and what you're looking towards as school comes closer and closer.
Right. So, 2020 has been a shit show enough, and layer on schooling, which is a whole other shit show in and of itself, right? I feel for the teachers and the boards who've basically been told by the government, go figure it out and bring us your plan, and we'll tell you whether they're good enough or not, rather than working, seamlessly together and kind of having a unity, and then this week alone, our prime minister decided to, 2 weeks before school's supposed to start, we have additional $2 billion for you guys. What are they supposed to do in 2 weeks, right? They've been scrambling
before. Right,
exactly. They've been scrambling to put a plan together, whatever that may be. Our frontline workers, both grocery store and in hospitals, had to scramble at the beginning of COVID. And now here we are, fast forward a few months. But, if I could show you the text and the Facebook, mommy Facebook groups of, are you or are you not sending your kids? Like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, right? Like, nobody knows and nobody has a crystal ball. And, I've got 3 kids, and the mental health aspect has definitely been a part of this decision of us for now, as of today, returning. That could change in the next 2 weeks, being socialized with other kids. I have one who has ADHD, and, the break in routine is not helpful to his learning. Mm-hmm. So there's so many factors to consider, and no answer is the right answer or wrong answer. You got to do what's best for each family.
Yeah, sure. It's crazy, the socialization aspect. I was surprised with some of the research we've done. The socialization was the biggest thing that parents thought that their kids were missing out on back in spring. So this is going to be a huge thing. Of course, parents want their kids to socialize and the mental health aspect of it, but about 68% of parents are sending their kids back to school as of now. And the other 32% either aren't sure yet or have decided on alternative education forms. So it's crazy. Your kids legally have to be in school, and some people still haven't decided what the best option is, and it's uncertain. It's nerve-wracking, it's stressful, it's scary because you don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen.
Absolutely. Sure. And, you know, with regards to even like contact tracing, you know, I myself, I've downloaded the app. I'm a big believer in it. You know, I don't know why people are worried about privacy. If you're on any social media, your privacy is already out the window.
Yeah.
So, you know, in terms of I think there's a responsibility as a parent to make sure you're doing your due diligence. This is not the year to be sending your kids with a snotty nose and a cough and like just giving them Tylenol and sending them off, which parents do. And I understand that, you know, parents have no choice sometimes, but this is where employers need to step up and step in and be a little bit more lenient and understandable. We're not in the same times that we used to be.
Totally.
For sure. And we'll just go over the last topic just quickly over the last 2 minutes. Lifestyle changes due to COVID-19. All of our lives changed. The three of us have stories involving moving. I just moved into my new place. A lot of people moved back to their homes, or back to their parents, their hometowns during when this happened. Tell us about your experiences and how your lives have changed.
Well, I'm moving out of my parents' home next week. Obviously, COVID-19 put that on hold for a good 6, 7, 8 months that I was supposed to move out. But the rental market in Toronto has just been insane. The amount of inventory due to Airbnbs no longer being allowed in some buildings. So it's been a crazy experience looking for a place, but excited to move out.
I definitely noticed that when I was finding my place, that the costs were way down, and you jump right on it. So I can see why you're making that decision.
Yeah.
As far as other things, I know you just want to quickly touch on the relationships and dating. I know that's something that hasn't come on the show before. I mean, never again, but that whole relationship has changed. Just in the final minute, let's talk about that.
No, when Mark and Dawn are gone, the mice will play.
Well, this is it. I mean, I haven't been in the dating game since 2003, so I have nothing to stand on. Although I am in that realm of lots of divorcees who are in the dating game. But it's interesting you said, you know, a lot of younger demographics have moved back to their parents' place. You know, it's already hard enough to be dating during a pandemic, and now you have to date living in your parents' home. So I'm just curious, like in terms of like, what does dating look like now in this day and age, right? Like in terms of, do you disclose, have I had COVID? Do I have COVID? Can you meet now? Like it's a whole new layer to this interesting dating game to begin with. I mean, 2003, there was no swipe left and right. So
yeah, I mean, the dating apps, like it used to be embarrassing to meet somebody on a dating app, but it's not anymore because you can't meet somebody in a bar. You can't meet somebody at a restaurant or going out because you're wearing a mask and because a lot of those places aren't open. But yeah, so dating apps are huge, but it's a complete change. All of a sudden you have to kind of upfront say what you're comfortable with in terms of health risks and going back and kind of disclosing things that normally wouldn't come up until like second, third, fourth date. So it's good and it's bad because now all of a sudden like there's so much more comfort around online dating and it allows you to see if there's a fit before you actually meet. But yeah, it's definitely interesting, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
For sure. And with that, I want to thank you guys for joining us today on Bourbon Street. It's been a unique episode this time, and I'm glad we're able to do it and have the different perspectives on many different events. There was a very busy week in news and a very busy week in different aspects. Thank you again, and thanks to Maz earlier. Next week, it should be back to normal. And thanks, guys. Thanks for watching, everyone watching. See you later.
Yes.